Hi everyone, Tom Slivick, and I'm here with ACES General Manager, President Paul Molinelli Sr.
Hey, Tom.
Paul. It's good to have you up. A lot of times your son comes on and explains things to us about what's happening with ACES. And why don't we get to something, and then we'll probably go back. Just recently, ACES was big in the news for probably several weeks because of the proposed 218, the process for the rate increase that ACES needs to propose. I think it was a little confusing to people probably at that one because for some reason it seemed like you were asking for a rate increase for 5 years at one time, and that's not the normal procedure that I'm used to. I do want you to clear it up.
Yeah. Well, we were not.
Right.
ACES asked for a 5.3 increase merely to cover a 25% increase at the landfill.
Okay.
The city, now the city of Sutter Creek is like a lot of small cities. They're counting paper clips. They're trying not to spend money if they don't have to.
Right.
A 218 process costs them somewhere between $2,000 and $6,000. In order to save that, within the law of Prop 218, they can do a multiple year,
okay,
as long as it's capped. So, and they wouldn't have to do 218. So the 6% that people keep talking about over 5 years was merely a cap.
Okay.
The average RRI, which is a refuse rate index, which is what we're talking about, right, is far less than that.
Okay, so I wanted to bring that up because, we have only one franchise, as you know. When I moved here, I think there were two possibilities of how you could get your trash hauled.
Actually, that's never been the case.
That's okay.
There have been two companies operating within their own specific franchise areas.
Right. But the areas were up for bid at certain times. Yes or no?
Well,
I shouldn't say it like
over the last 40 years, that's true.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, ACES is here on its own now. So I imagine, since you're a franchise, the people that have user service, and I'm one of them, you might want to say, well, how do I know that ACES isn't overcharging me?
Sure.
And that's how the government steps forward, I imagine, and came up with this RRI between the Board of Supervisors, cities? Yeah. How did that work out?
Okay. The Amador County Board of Supervisors hired a consultant, an outside consultant who came in and proposed this system where in 1 year they do a detailed analysis. And they came in, actually, they come into our business, and they, far more intrusive than a certified audit, they left no stone unturned. So this consultant comes in and asks us, why do you do this? Why do you do that? What's that for? So then a base rate was set based on what they determined was a proper rate.
Okay.
And then every year for the next 3 or 4 years, a rate indices are used, refuse rate index. And that determines based on those, and they somewhat mirror the CPI, but there are other considerations in it. And so on the next 4 years, any rate increase, and by the way, it's not always a rate increase,
right,
and sometimes it's a rate decrease.
Okay.
So that's how it works. And the city of Sutter Creek is following the same concept.
Right. So essentially, ACES can come and say, look, our costs have changed up or down, but essentially, so I guess if it's going down, you need to be, let's put it this way, do you have to go in every year and talk to?
No.
Talk to them?
No, we don't. We try to, because what we want to avoid is staying away from small incremental increses. And
where you
rather,
feel like you're being nickeled and dimed?
No, we have no problem. We have no problem with the system. But some companies, and we have over the 40 years of our history here, we've waited to where the increase was 10, 15%. Well, that is hard for people to swallow. So we feel, and the county felt, it was better to take, on a yearly basis, determine what the rates should be and adjust them accordingly.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break, then we'll come back. Right. We'll pick this up. Stay with us right here on TSPN.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Hi everyone, Tom Slivick, and I'm with Paul Molinelli Sr. from ACES Waste Services. Paul, you know, when I was reading the news, and I'm sure anybody that hears me read some of the news and some of the stuff that happens at board meetings and people making decisions and everything, it's basically process, isn't it? Oh, so much of government. I'm asking you from now, you're sitting on the water agency board a bit, so you have many hats. So let's just ask you to put that on for a minute, and you know what I'm saying. So the 218 is it's all about process.
It's true. It's steps that have to be taken and followed. It's like a vote. And you've got to be careful that you do it right, because there's always somebody looking over your shoulder.
Okay, so I think we established we were talking about in Sutter Creek, the rate increase was something that you would have been fine with 1 year. The city of Sutter Creek says maybe we can save some money if we do this and put a cap on it, because that sounds like 218 process allows you to go multiple years if it's capped.
That's correct.
And so you had to go down that road. And the process would, for 218, that's kind of open, I shouldn't say open-ended, but it's not very clear. It's kind of murky as how that works, or the forms that are used and things like that. Why don't you tell us about that process? Well,
the state merely says there are certain things that have to be included on the form. The cities and county that have a difficult time determining who should get it. For example, should just customers of the garbage company get it? But if it's a property tax, most cities opt for property owners and customers of the garbage service. But yeah, it has to. One of my pet things is that if somebody turns in a group of protest, a stack, how does one know, even though the person who is on the list, it's correct, the correct name, how does one know that that person actually did it? Couldn't somebody sit in a room and just start writing names and signing? There's a possibility of fraud. And so even at the water agency, we tried to come up with a form that would avoid those kind of things. But then you get into Howard Jarvis and what's right and what's wrong, and it's just a lot of gray area and a lot of ambiguity. And I think cities and counties and the water agency wants to opt for making sure we do it as correctly as possible to avoid lawsuits.
Okay, so there, at Sutter Creek, there was kind of a large number that was turned in at the meeting night, I believe, is that right?
They announced that the people who collected protests announced that they had 214, and curiously asked the city council, don't even bother checking, because we have 714. They needed 588. Of course, the city has to check. Okay. So upon checking, it got down to the final count was 501 or 3, which was about 85 or 86 short of what it needed to be successful.
What were some of the criteria for saying that some of the votes or ballots or whatever you had were invalid?
The first cut was somebody who signed it who is neither a customer of ACES nor owned property in the city of Sutter Creek. That's the first cut.
Okay.
And that's the main cut. Some people lived out of the city. Some people lived in an apartment house where the apartment house may have garbage service, but the owner pays for it. That was the biggest thing.
Okay.
And then there were duplicates. For some reason, the same person appeared to have signed it multiple times.
Okay. So once again, that was probably because of process, or could be going out from you and a group going around and saying, how about signing on here?
Right, and that's what happened actually.
Okay. So at the end of the count and the meeting, as of I believe it was last Monday.
This past Monday.
It was approved that, what was it exactly, that you would get the rate increase for the year that you, I guess, for the upcoming year? Based on the RRI?
No, based on the 5.3% was merely for covering our increased landfill costs.
Okay.
And by the way, there are 800 something customers, residential customers in the city of Sutter Creek. The total number of dollars which that group of people were asked to pay was $600 something. So it was 88 cents a month and about 22 cents a week.
Okay. And so why did the city, in your, in your reasoning, way of reasoning, why did they not go with a multiple year cap? Could they have done that at the time?
Definitely. I wish they would have, but they decided not to. What they want to do is, one of the things that the city can do as part of our contract is go through this detailed analysis. It's going to cost the city somewhere between $20,000 to $50,000 to do it. So that's where we're at now.
What would be
so they hesitated going into the 5 years until that detailed analysis was done.
Okay, so can the city come back at this time, or would it be, not this time necessarily, because what sort of analysis would have to be done before, say, they might come back and say, well, okay, well, we'd like to go for that cap or anything?
Right. I don't know the process.
Okay.
Speaking of processes that they would have to go through, this particular process might have ended with Monday night's meeting. If they want to do it again, they may have to go through the same process again. I'm not sure of that.
Okay. All right. Now, there was a similar kind of situation in Jackson where you only received two votes against a rate increase as well. Why do you think it's low? Do you think people are trusting the system and the way that it works?
I do. I think it's a tribute to, I always say this, it's a tribute to us, the owners of the company, how we run our business. It's a tribute to the employees of our company, how they treat our customers and how they perform their duties. We get very few complaints. People understand that we've been here a long time, that we don't, we're not into making giant profits, that we are a locally owned company that tries to do as best we can. It sounds corny, but it is really how we try to operate. And I think, on the whole, people know that. We've had in all the years we've done 218 processes, we've had probably maybe 10,000 customers have the opportunity to vote. And prior to Sutter Creek, I think we've had 20 out of maybe 10,000.
Now, in the process, do the city council members have to want the increase as well? In other words, before it goes to a 218 process, or can they just say, we don't?
Well,
how does that work?
It varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The city of Sutter Creek did not do that. They voted to do the public hearing and then examine it at the public hearing meeting.
Okay.
The county does it a little differently. They do the analysis at a meeting, vote on it, and then declare the public hearing opened, and the 45 days begin. So it's just a matter of how they want to do it. There's no set way for a particular jurisdiction to do it.
Okay, and it seems ACES is working well with any way that that's chosen to for that process for the different entities.
We don't have any input, so we pretty much have to live with whatever each city and county wants to do.
Okay, well, we're running out of time. Thanks for stopping by and clearing things up.
I want to thank, as a Shriner, I want to thank you for announcing about the Shriners Clinic. It's a good cause.
Well, I'm sure all the people would like to thank the Shriners for looking out for youngsters.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, and stay with us. There'll be more on the other side of the break. You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN.